right, good morning. It's time for another model. A number of you have reached out and asked me if I'm going to put a model together on this, and so I am. I've been thinking about this. I try and put a model together once a week. In the work that I do with executives on turnarounds and transformations and tune-ups of their own work, their teams, it's fascinating to me when we start to uncover interesting concepts that we can unpack and try and get the essence of. And so this is one where we're talking about the Starbucks appointment of their new CEO. In the course of one day, the stock rallied over 25%, putting around $20 billion back on the books at Starbucks in terms of market cap. So the market has said that this appointment, that this person, this guy, Brian Niccol, is worth $20 billion. So I want to unpack a little bit of what makes somebody worth $20 billion. It's a model we're going to go into. There's so much to unpack, so I'm going to try and keep it as brief as I can. And we might do a follow-on, actually, because there's so much to get into. But let's dive in. So the first thing that the market has said that they kind of like about Brian Niccol is the fact that he's got significant experience. And when we talk about experience, what we're kind of referencing here is a number of different dimensions of experience. We're talking about the fact that he came from Procter & Gamble, where he has deep experience in understanding supply chains. He has deep experience in understanding consumers. He went into Chipotle. There were quality issues. People were getting norovirus from having consumed products there. They had fines, regulatory fines. Performance was bad. People weren't going in. So he's had quality and performance experience dealing with those things, which is exactly what Starbucks is dealing with now. And he turned them around. He has also demonstrated that he can work with activist investors. He had at Chipotle, he was dealing with Pershing, Bill Ackman's fund. He's now got two funds that he's dealing with, Elliott and one other. One other only came in last week, and immediately they've seen a massive increase in their position, which is great for them. But he's clearly demonstrated that, and he can rally around the important stakeholders, including his board. So the market is saying, you know what, we kind of like this guy because he's got this great experience. Right, let's dive into the second thing. The second thing that he's got, let's just draw it out here, is that he's been able to demonstrate very targeted experience in doing a turnaround. As we talked about in terms of Starbucks, Chipotle rather, he was able to go in at a time when they were dealing with these quality and performance issues. And over the time he has been there, the stock is up 800%. That's massive. Now you compare that to Starbucks, which has kind of rallied kind of up and down just a little bit, certainly nowhere near an 800% increase over the same period. So he's dealt with that. Same store sales. Most recently, you had a couple of stores, including Newport Beach, California, where same store sales are up 11%. Contrast that with Starbucks, where same store sales are down. McDonald's, same store sales are down. Like, he defied the trend at Chipotle. And the market seems to think, gosh, if he could do that at Starbucks, that would be fantastic. And of course it would be. He's known as a guy that can fix things and solve problems. So quite significant there. The market says we like that, right? What else is the market saying? Well, the market's saying that this is a guy who really understands the brand, or rather the idea of a brand. And how do they know that? Well, they've seen that as evidenced in his work. He's credited for having really pushed the focus on quality, pushing the focus for a different sort of reinvention around social media for Chipotle. And it really has seemed to take off. He's resonating with the market, and that whole strategy, the social media strategy that arguably he's employed or encouraged his team to employ has paid off dividends. So the market again is saying, here, this is a guy that understands brand, and what is Starbucks if not a brand, right? So the opportunity to do what he did at Chipotle, amplify that now even bigger. Gosh, what could he do at Starbucks? The fourth thing, and I touched on this a little bit, is that his prior experience clearly demonstrates an understanding of the market that he's in, and by that we're specifically talking about consumers. And when we say consumers, what we're talking about here are the people who consume the product. And how do we know that? Well, a couple of things. One of the things that he did while he was at Chipotle is unlike so many other stores, including the idea of putting up prices at Starbucks, McDonald's, Chipotle didn't. They kept their prices relatively flat. So he understood that if he wants consumers to keep eating in his store, in an inflationary environment where a lot of people are saying it's hard to go out, what does he need to do? He needs to be attractive above and beyond his competitors. So he kept his prices relatively flat. Some increases, but not like everybody else. So he kept the prices flat. He also understood, again, this idea of quality, like what do consumers want? But importantly, he also focused on simplicity. You can customize whatever you're getting at Chipotle, but it's within a relatively narrow offering, a portfolio of offerings. You go into a Starbucks, you can stand behind that counter figuring out, sizes and then pumps of this and that and dairy, non-dairy, sugar, non-sugar flavors. There's also another trend that's been disturbing at Starbucks, and that's the focus on increasing sugar and consumers complaining about increasing ice. So you dilute the drink, you sugar flavor the drink, and the quality is just not there anymore. He's been able to avoid that by focusing on quality. So the market has said we kind of like that too. There's one last piece. It's not last because it's last because maybe it's the most important. And it's the idea that he kind of gets people. He's a people leader. When Walmart appointed him to their board, they said something quite profound. And you've got to appreciate that when you appoint somebody to a board, you do a lot of work. You do your homework. One of the things that Walmart said was that he is a dynamic leader, and he has a passion for excellence. He's also credited for being a people-centered. So my team does some research for me, and one of the things we read was that he's a people-centered leader that creates an innovative, or with an innovative culture. So one of the things, what do we know that Starbucks are struggling with right now? One of the things that Starbucks are struggling with right now are their relationship with their partners. The fact that they can't really rally around getting employees, partners, baristas on board with where they're trying to go, because maybe it's too complex, maybe it's just not clear, whatever it is, it's a challenge for them. So what the market has said is that this combination of skills, the nexus of all of these things, sets him up to be worth $20 billion, because bringing this particular skill set together, which is maybe quite unique, who else has done this, is a formidable skill set that can be employed at Starbucks. Now, I will point out just one last thing. There's a couple of big differences between what he's doing, what he has dealt with. Let's move that up there. What he has dealt with at Starbucks, at Chipotle, what he's going to be dealing with. And let's just draw these out very quickly. You've got a situation where at Starbucks, you have got quite a complex operation. At Chipotle, you've got relative simplicity. So he's going from simple to relatively complex. A couple of other things. You're going from an operation that has approximately 3,500 stores and I think it's about 150,000 employees, to a situation where you've got 40,000 stores, 400,000 employees, 40,000 stores. And the idea here is that these are quite international, with struggles in China, big struggles in China, and the US, this operation is relatively domestic in terms of the US and a few stores outside the US. You have one union, and he's going to an operation that's going to be characterized, or is rather characterized, by 470 unionized stores. And the last thing that's worth pointing out is that he's actually going to be going from an operation where he has relative autonomy. He is CEO and chair, and he's going to a situation where he will be CEO and board chair, but he also has this overhang of a founder's shadow that's going to significantly impact sort of where he is. So he's going into an environment where the challenges are not insignificant from where he has been. Ultimately, that's what the market has said makes somebody worth $20 billion. I would love to know your thoughts. What have we missed? What's in the model that kind of is worth calling out? Thanks for watching. Thanks for taking the time. I love building models. It's really important as we kind of try and dissect performance and learn from the best. I think there's a tremendous lesson in here for all leaders and all operators, and certainly in the work that we do with owners, with operators, with C-suite teams, with private equity firms around how do we actually get the best out of an organization. I don't know what strategy is going to yield you $20 billion in a day other than a people strategy focused on the right leader. Thanks for watching this one.